The sun was just beginning to dip below the horizon, casting a golden shimmer over the still waters of Bluewood Lake. A light breeze rippled across the surface, making the reflection of the sky dance as the world remained quiet and undisturbed. It was the kind of place where a man could breathe, let go of life's burdens, and simply exist for a while. I sat on the worn wooden dock, my fishing rod in hand, watching the thin line disappear beneath the water. This had been my sanctuary for years, a place away from ringing phones, tight deadlines, and the constant pull of responsibilities. Out here, there were no urgent emails, no client demands, no pressure. Just me, the lake, and the occasional tug on the line. As I adjusted my grip, I felt a small nibble, nothing worth reeling in just yet. A faint smile played on my lips as my thoughts drifted to my wife, Emily. I had left her curled up in bed that morning, still half asleep as I kissed her forehead before heading out for the day. She had murmured something sleepy and incoherent before burying herself deeper under the covers. I had chuckled, pulling the blanket up over her shoulders, then quietly slipped out the door. Nearly 10 years of marriage. It wasn't always fireworks anymore, but that was normal, right? Love changes. It settles. It becomes a steady, comfortable presence rather than an all-consuming fire. At least, that's what I had always believed. The vibration of my phone in my pocket pulled me from my thoughts. Probably a message from work or a friend checking in. Without much thought, I unlocked the screen, already prepared to ignore whatever it was. But the moment my eyes landed on the text, my whole world seemed to stop. Do you think 12 condoms will be enough for tonight? For a split second, I didn't understand what I was reading. The words felt disconnected, like they belonged to someone else's life, not mine. My brow furrowed as my mind scrambled for a rational explanation. A wrong number. A prank. Some kind of joke. But deep in my gut, something twisted. A cold, sharp instinct. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the message. My heartbeat picked up, my body suddenly feeling too warm despite the cool lake breeze. No. This couldn't be what it looked like. Emily wouldn't, would she? My grip loosened on the fishing rod, the tip bobbing slightly as a fish pulled at the line. But I didn't notice. I was frozen, my focus locked on that message. My breath felt shallow, my fingers clammy against the phone screen. Without thinking, my thumb moved. I opened the security app connected to the cameras in our house. The feed loaded. And then, my entire world shattered. The second the video came into focus, my stomach dropped. There, sprawled across our bed, the bed we had picked out together, the bed that had once been ours alone, was Emily. Her golden hair was tangled in the sheets, her bare legs wrapped around another man. A younger man. A stranger. My breath caught in my throat, my pulse roaring so loudly in my ears that the tranquil sounds of the lake around me faded into nothing. My phone trembled slightly in my hand as I gripped it tighter, trying to process what I was seeing. The man, her lover, leaned back lazily against my headboard, swirling a glass of red wine in his hand like he owned the place. He was smug. Confident. The kind of guy who took what he wanted without a second thought. And Emily, she was laughing. Not the soft, affectionate laughter I had once known, but something else. Something teasing. Cruel. You really think he won't find out? The guy asked, tilting his wine glass with a smirk. Emily scoffed, completely unfazed. Oh, please, she said, taking a slow sip of her drink. Dylan's too busy playing the perfect husband. He doesn't suspect a thing. Something inside me snapped. Not suspect a thing. I had loved her, trusted her, built a life with her, believing we were a team. And here she was, tangled up with another man in our bed, treating me like a fool. The weight of betrayal pressed down on me, thick and suffocating. But instead of rage, I felt something sharper. Something cold. And then, the final blow. The guy grinned, setting his glass down on my nightstand, his tone laced with amusement. I mean, 12 condoms, he chuckled. You really think we'll need that many? Emily giggled, stretching out like a satisfied cat. Better safe than sorry, she purred. Besides, I like to keep my options open. Options. My stomach twisted so tightly I thought I might be sick. Every ounce of warmth drained from my body, leaving something raw and final in its place. There was no misunderstanding this. No possible excuse. This wasn't just cheating. This was mockery. And she was going to regret it. Without hesitation, I pressed the record button on my phone. My breathing steadied. My hands stopped shaking. She had made her choice. Now, it was time for me to make mine. I sat there on the dock, my phone clutched tightly in my hand, watching the live feed as Emily and her new boy toy continued their little game in my bed. My breathing slowed, my mind clearing as a cold, calculated rage took over. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to rush home and start a scene. That would be too easy. Too predictable. Too merciful. No, if Emily thought I was some blind, devoted husband who would never catch on, she was about to learn just how wrong she was. I let the video play for a moment longer, ensuring every whispered word, every smirk, every shameless betrayal was recorded in perfect clarity. The proof was undeniable. But one video wasn't enough. I scrolled back through the security footage, scanning through the past week. Then the past month. And what I found made my stomach churn. Different nights. Different excuses. The same deceit. Emily hadn't just made a mistake. This wasn't some one-time lapse in judgment. This had been going on for a while. I watched as she let different men into my home, our home, each one playing their part in the twisted little life she had been living behind my back. How long had I been a fool? How many times had she kissed me goodbye with the taste of another man still on her lips? I exhaled, slow and measured, forcing myself to stay calm. There was no time for grief. No space for heartbreak. This wasn't about emotions anymore. This was about consequences. I switched over to my banking app. With just a few taps, I froze every joint credit card, every account she had access to. Let's see how long she lasted when the money dried up. Emily had always loved her luxuries, the expensive skincare, the impulsive spa days, the little shopping sprees she justified as self-care. She'd never had to worry about a thing because I made sure she never went without. Well, that was about to change. The moment she tried to swipe her card for some overpriced brunch with her friends, she'd be met with a cold, impersonal decline. A fitting metaphor for our marriage. But I wasn't stopping there. I dialed a number I hadn't called in years. It rang twice before a familiar voice answered, calm and professional. Dylan. A pause. I had a feeling this day might come. My attorney. The one who had warned me, years ago, to protect myself just in case. And I had listened. Tell me everything, he said. So I did. In brutal, unfiltered detail. There was silence on the other end when I finished. Then, a slow exhale. This is good, he said finally. Very good. If she's been unfaithful, she loses everything in the divorce. No alimony. No settlement. She walks away with exactly what she came in with. Which, if I recalled correctly, was nothing. I almost smiled. Perfect. But I wasn't done yet. Emily had spent months lying to me, humiliating me behind my back, parading around as if I were too stupid to notice. She hadn't just betrayed me, she had mocked me. And that required something more than just taking away her money. Emily still had no idea what was coming. By the time I got home, she was already there, humming to herself in the kitchen, sipping a glass of wine like she had nothing to worry about. I stood in the doorway, watching her. The woman who had smiled at me every morning. The woman I had built a life with. And yet, I didn't even know who she really was. She turned, saw me, and smiled. Hey, baby. How was fishing? Fishing. That's what she thought I'd been doing. I forced a small smile, stepping forward. It was eye-opening. She chuckled, completely oblivious. Yeah. Catch anything good? I met her gaze. Oh yeah. I caught something big. For just a second, something flickered in her expression. A hesitation. Like some part of her sensed that something was off. But she masked it quickly, taking another sip of wine. Well, I'm glad you had a good time, she said, stepping closer to me. I was thinking maybe we could have a date night soon. Just the two of us. It's been a while, you know. The sheer audacity of her made me want to laugh. But I kept my composure. Not yet. I reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, my touch gentle. "That's a great idea," I said smoothly. "In fact, how about tomorrow night? I'll take you somewhere nice. Just us." She beamed. "That sounds perfect." She had no idea. The next evening, we met at one of her favorite restaurants. A high-end place with dim lighting, velvet booths, and an atmosphere that practically begged for intimate moments. She walked in, dressed to impress, her burgundy silk dress hugging her body in all the right places. She looked like the perfect wife. The kind of woman who had everything under control. But not tonight. She sat across from me, her eyes glowing with excitement. "I'm so glad we're doing this," she said, reaching for my hand. "I've missed you." I let her touch me. Let her play her role. Let her believe, for just a little longer, that she still had the upper hand. I lifted my glass in a slow toast. "To us," I said. She smiled, clinking her glass against mine. "To us." I took a slow sip of my whiskey, then leaned back slightly in my chair. "You know," I mused, tilting my head, "I actually planned a little surprise for you tonight." Her brows lifted in pleasant surprise. "A surprise?" she giggled. I nodded. "Something special." And then I gave the signal. The soft jazz music in the restaurant faded. A hush fell over the room. And on the large projection screen mounted on the restaurant's wall, a video began to play. The bedroom. Our bedroom. Emily, tangled in bed with her lover. The soft glow of the bedside lamp casting their betrayal in high definition. Gasps filled the restaurant. People whispered. Some stared in shock. Others looked away, embarrassed for her. Emily's smile vanished. Her entire body stiffened. The blood drained from her face as she watched herself on screen, laughing, moaning, mocking me. "Dylan," she breathed, her voice barely a whisper. What is this?" I took another sip of my drink, my expression unreadable. "A surprise," I said smoothly. Her breathing turned shallow. Her fingers clenched the edge of the table. "Turn it off," she hissed, panic rising in her voice. I didn't. She turned, her gaze darting around the room, realizing everyone was watching. The waitstaff. The guests. The restaurant manager. Her scandal had become their evening entertainment. "Dylan," she pleaded, her voice cracking. "Please." I set my empty glass down, finally meeting her eyes. "Why?" I asked, my voice calm. "You weren't ashamed when you were doing it." Tears welled in her eyes. Desperation. Realization. And then she ran. She bolted from the table, knocking over her glass in the process. Red wine spilled across the white tablecloth, a perfect metaphor for her ruined life. The restaurant buzzed with hushed voices as she pushed past the crowd, humiliated, exposed, destroyed. I exhaled slowly, rolling my shoulders back, feeling lighter than I had in years. A waiter hesitated beside me. Sir," he said cautiously, "should I bring the check?" I chuckled. "No need," I said, standing up. "She won't be coming back." And with that, I walked out, leaving behind nothing but the wreckage of her perfect little world. I opened my email, attached the video files, and began typing. The recipients. Her parents. Her siblings. Her closest friends. Her boss. Subject. The truth about Emily. I thought you should know the kind of person Emily really is. While I spent years building a life with her, she was busy lying, cheating, and mocking me behind my back. But I'll let her speak for herself. Here's what she's been up to while pretending to be the devoted wife. I added the video links. And then, for the final touch, one last line. "This is the last time she will ever make a fool of me." I hit send. And with that, the dominoes were set in motion. Now, all I had to do was wait for them to fall. The morning after the restaurant incident, Emily woke up to a nightmare. The wine from the night before still lingered in her system, but it wasn't the alcohol making her nauseous. It was the fallout. The weight of what had happened. Her phone was vibrating non-stop on the nightstand. She reached for it, her fingers trembling as she unlocked the screen. 57 missed calls. Over 100 unread messages. A sinking dread curled in her stomach as she scrolled through the notifications. The first text was from her boss. "Emily, we need to talk." Immediately. The second was from her mother. Is this some kind of joke? Tell me this isn't real. And then, the one that hit the hardest, from her best friend, Mia. WTF, Emily? Everyone saw that video. I can't believe you did this to Dylan. Don't contact me. Her breath hitched. The video. She scrambled to open social media, her hands shaking as she typed in her name. And there it was. Trending. Her name, her humiliation, her downfall, plastered across the internet for the world to see. Meme after meme. 12 condoms. More like 12 reasons she lost everything. When your husband has better production skills than Netflix. A masterclass in how to ruin your life in under 30 seconds. Her heart pounded against her ribs. This couldn't be real. She tried calling Mia, but the call went straight to voicemail. She tried again. And again. Nothing. Desperation clawed at her throat. She scrolled through their group chat, searching for anything, any sign that someone still had her back. But the chat was empty. And then she noticed it. She had been removed. Erased. Like she had never existed. Her fingers tightened around her phone as panic set in. She needed to fix this. She needed someone. So she got dressed, barely holding herself together, and drove straight to her office. By the time she reached the front doors, her stomach was in knots. She just had to explain, right? Her boss would understand. She had been set up. This was all just a misunderstanding. She barely made it through the front entrance before security stopped her. "You're not allowed in," the guard said, shifting uncomfortably. Her eyes widened. "What? What do you mean? I work here." The man hesitated, then lowered his voice. "HR sent out a memo this morning. You've been terminated." The words hit her like a punch to the gut. "No. No, that's not possible," she stammered. "I need to speak with Mr. Caldwell." "He doesn't want to see you." She stared at the guard, speechless. Just yesterday, she had walked through these halls with confidence, respected, admired. And now? Now she was being escorted out like a criminal. Her colleagues passed by, whispering as they walked, avoiding her gaze. She was a ghost, haunting the place she used to belong. By the time she reached the parking lot, her legs were shaking. Everything was crumbling. Her job. Her reputation. Her friends. She pulled out her phone and dialed Mia one more time. Straight to voicemail. Her hands were trembling as she tried another friend. No answer. Another. Nothing. The truth settled over her like a suffocating weight. They weren't coming to help her. They had all abandoned her. Her chest tightened as she realized there was still one person left. Justin. Her lover. Her escape. She hit dial, clinging to the hope that at least he would be there. It rang. Once. Twice. On the third ring, he picked up. She exhaled sharply, relief flooding her. "Justin, thank God." Yeah, listen." His voice was hesitant. "I don't think we should be talking." She froze. "What? What are you saying?" He sighed. "Emily, this whole thing got way too messy. I didn't sign up for all this drama." Her stomach dropped. "You're leaving me," she choked out. "It's not personal," he said, like that somehow made it better. "I just don't want to be involved in your mess." Click. The line went dead. She stared at her phone, her vision blurring. Justin was gone. Her job was gone. Her friends were gone. And as she sat there in the cold, empty parking lot, reality finally crashed down on her. She had ruined her life. And there was no one left to save her. The lake was calm that evening, its surface smooth as glass, reflecting the deepening hues of the twilight sky. A soft breeze rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. It was the same lake I had sat at just days ago, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in my life. But tonight was different. I leaned back against the wooden bench at the edge of the dock, my fingers idly tracing the rim of my whiskey glass. I wasn't drinking heavily, just enough to let the warmth settle in my chest, to amplify the satisfaction that had been building inside me since that unforgettable night at the restaurant. The night when I had taken back control. I closed my eyes, letting the silence sink into my bones. Peace. That's what this was. A kind of peace I hadn't felt in years. No more doubts. No more sleepless nights wondering if I was imagining the distance between us, if I was overthinking the cold glances, the unexplained absences. No more playing the fool. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I already knew who it was. Emily. I flipped the phone in my hand, the screen lighting up with a notification. Missed calls, 7. Unread messages, 36. I had read some of them earlier. At first, they were defensive. How could you do this to me? You humiliated me. You're a monster. Then, when she realized her anger wasn't working, her tone changed. Dylan, please. I made a mistake. We can fix this. Don't throw everything away over one night. One night. I let out a quiet chuckle. How easily she minimized it. As if betrayal could be reduced to a single incident. As if it hadn't been a pattern, a choice she had made over and over again. She wasn't sorry she had done it. She was sorry she had been caught. I deleted the messages without replying. A rustling behind me caught my attention. I didn't tense. I already knew who it was. Mind if I sit? A familiar voice. Calm, low, knowing. I gestured to the empty space beside me. It's a free country. David settled onto the bench, his own glass of whiskey in hand. He studied me for a moment before speaking. You look different, he remarked. I raised an eyebrow. Different how? A smirk tugged at the corner of his lips. Like a man who just burned down a house and walked away whistling. I chuckled, shaking my head. Not burned. Just cleaned out the rot. David let out a low whistle. That was brutal, man. Even for you. He took a sip of his drink. No regrets. I thought about it. Really thought about it. I searched for even a sliver of regret, a moment of hesitation. And I found nothing. No, I said simply. David nodded, as if he had expected that answer. Good. We sat in silence for a while, the quiet night stretching around us like a warm blanket. After a moment, David spoke again. You know, he said casually, she's probably going to keep trying. Might even show up at your door one of these days. I smirked. Then she'll find that the locks have changed. David chuckled, raising his glass in a silent toast. To new beginnings. I clinked my glass against his, the sound crisp in the cool night air. As I took another slow sip, I felt it. The weight had lifted. A chapter had closed. And for the first time in a long time, I was free. Thank you for visited my YouTube channel. Your support, likes, and comments truly inspire me to create even more engaging content. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. You're a part of this amazing community, and I'm thrilled to share my stories with you. See you in the next video on YouTube.